Yo, what is going on, PartTimerZack here. In today's video, we're going to be talking about Gran Saga, the JP version. So this one did come out on the 18th of November, but there were so many games coming out in early November there that I actually ended up forgetting it until I watched Chaotic stream last night. And I was like, oh yeah, this is a game. This is a thing. So I wanted to do my first impressions on the game. So the first thing I wanted to show here is the gameplay, just cycling through some of the different characters that I have and just talking about gameplay mechanics in general. So a lot of people have been saying that this is kind of like an auto MMO. There are auto mechanics to it, which we'll talk about here in a couple of seconds. But basically, you know, it's just like any other MMO. I can go in here and I can attack anything I want. I can use some of my skills. And you can see that I can just hack and slash, skill up, and whatever I need to do for my level up anyway. And I can actually switch between my characters if I want to. You have 3 characters that you're able to choose from. And then you do see that there's a little timer there in between characters. So you can't just like continuously swap off. You do actually have to have a little bit of a timer. Now, this is kind of a cool thing. If you go into attack, like as you're attacking, it'll give you a little bit of an animation. It doesn't always do that. I'm guessing it kind of goes with the timer as well. But this is the thing that I feel like a lot of people are on the fence about when it comes to this game. So as you can see, I was doing all of that stuff my own. I was playing, as you can see. But if I click this once, you actually see that it'll do auto combat, meaning that it only does basic attacks right here. And then I choose when it does the skills. So for example, I chose for it to do that. And then you actually have full auto, meaning that it will do everything for you, from auto attacking to using skills however it sees fit. Obviously, it's still an AI, so it doesn't always use the skills in the ways that you expect, but it is there if you want to do it. Now, I know I've seen a lot of people talking about how that's kind of a turnoff for a lot of people, because when it comes to MMOs, a lot of people take pride in the fact that they have to rank up themselves. You know, it's a kind of a big thing about MMOs of being able to grind, being able to kind of get your skills and all your different accounts and stuff like that manually. And a lot of people kind of don't like the fact that auto is here for this game anyway. I personally like it because if I need to go do something real quick, I can just kind of finish my quest that I'm on, and then I can go on and be about my day. But so the other things that I want to talk about is just the characters. First and foremost, the characters look really good, right? So I think that this is kind of a good art style. It does remind me a little bit of Final Fantasy, if I had to be 100% honest. And that's just mainly because some of the characters in here have kind of that vibe to it, especially like this big dude kind of reminds me a lot of the Final Fantasy, especially Final Fantasy Online. And then this lady also reminds me a little bit of it as well. So the main gacha here is actually going to be these right here. As you can see that these will give us abilities and stuff, which I actually want to showcase something that's really cool that I found just a little bit ago. So essentially, if you go into this, you can actually see what each person would get if they use like an SSR, meaning if you pulled it from the gacha, what it would look like if you were able to equip it. So for example, we'll use this guy. You can actually see that some of my weapons are changing based on the different things that I have for my different characters, which are in the gacha. And then you can actually see that I can play the animation. So this is what the skill would look like if I had him equipped. So the main thing you need to know about this game is there's no character creation. It's just mainly just playing as the main cast of characters. And then the rolling is actually going to be on these guys, which are more like support units, I would kind of say. But they give you different attacks and they give you different variations to the different weapons that you can have. So you can see that this one, for example, is a little bit different than something like this one, for example, will be a little bit different as well. So it depends on who you have locked on. And then you can actually do like a big skill thing where it's like an ultimate and you actually change into it depending on who the character is. Obviously, you can't just do that for everybody. Like, for example, this one's a little bit different here as well. And you can see that it has a little bit of variety depending on who you have and what you got going on. And it is also dependent on what character you have. So if you have like a different character, let's just say her, for example, she also has her own set of characters and units that you need to pull from the gacha as well. I have seen a lot of people kind of not really like that element of it. I think it's kind of a nice touch for a gacha and a little bit different of a spin on gacha. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the gacha. We'll talk about some of the different rates. I have seen a lot of people talk about how the rates are a little bit on the low side, but I'll talk about that here in a minute on why I think it's okay. So essentially, if you go in here, you can see that your rate ups, you can see all the different percentages. You can see an SSR is 3%, SR 9%, and an R is an 88%. So obviously you are going to be getting some of these R's a lot more than often. But the thing is, the currency is a little bit more grindable. This is all currency that I got just from jumping out of the game and just some of the day one stuff that you get as you progress. But you do get a lot of the currency. There are different ways to grind out the currency. I haven't quite gotten to all of the ways that you can grind out the currency. But basically what I'm saying is the fact that the rates are a little bit lower, but it's a little bit more forgiving because you're able to grind out the currency in a lot different ways than maybe you could in some of the other gachas. Real quick, while we're on all this, I'm just going to go ahead and do a 10 pull. I'm not going to do too many of them because I want to kind of keep this currency for anything that I'm able to see. We have a couple of these, obviously, and then some of the different rates. So I'm going to pull for a 3,000 here for a 10 pull and kind of see what we're doing. I think that the pities here are actually going to be carried onto, oh, they're going to a step. So it's 70% and then you actually get a select. Okay, we'll see how that kind of works as we go through it. Like I said, the animations of this game are really cool, and it, you know, it's no different than the gacha here. The gacha has a lot of cool animations as well. I do think that there's a way to be able to see if you got an SSR, and I think that this has to be like a kind of a rainbow color. I don't think it was. I think it was a purple. Yeah, I think it's kind of supposed to be a rainbow here, and then it's supposed to be kind of a purple color there. We'll see. I'm not 100% sure. I still need to get an idea of what's going on with some of the different things, but I got an SR. That's pretty cool. I got an R as well. I might do another 10 pull just because I kind of want to see what's going on. And then, okay, so some of these other ones are just dupes as well. So we'll go ahead and do another 10 pull just to see what's going on. I'm about 10%. Okay. So the gacha. Okay, I need to calculate that real quick to see how much that is. But essentially there's a pity. So you get a 70% chance of getting an SSR, and then the next step up is going to be one that you get to choose. And then I'm guessing it's only on this one banner. I'll have to check here in a minute if it translates to both the banners or if it's just this limited time banner. But I don't think I got that lucky on this one either, if I had to guess. So SRs are pretty good as well. So we'll take those. And most of these are just going to be dupes, which is fine. So it looks like they have their own pity. As what I can see from here, the bar isn't up on this one or any of these other ones. But it's nice that they have a pity system. It does seem a little bit high. I did 20. So I'm guessing it's 100 for a 70% up. And then you do another 100 for a select. So you'd be able to select whatever SR or SSR you'd want. Okay, so this is the next thing I wanted to check out because I think this is really cool. So basically you can go in here and you can pick any of the characters that you have. And you can see that they actually have like a massive skill tree. So essentially what you do is as you kind of grind, you get these currencies and you can unlock. I haven't done it yet because I need to translate these to see what I do. I want to make sure that I'm kind of going in the right path essentially of what I want to do. But you can click on any of them and you can kind of see what path it takes to get there. I think skill trees are really, really cool, especially for the fact that there's so many of them. It really does seem like there's a couple different routes you can do it depending on what kind of character you want to build and what kind of unit you want. So like health, you know, attack, some different things like that. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is a little bit more of the customization. I know a lot of people kind of got turned off to the fact that there was no character creation and it's more just like playing as a, you know, the main characters or whatever and having a couple different subset characters. But the main thing that's kind of cool about this is the fact that you can actually go in here and the different gear makes your character look a little bit different. Obviously I have really basic stuff, so I'm only going to look real basic, but there is quite a bit of gear going on here that gives you a little bit more of an idea of like some of the different customizations. Obviously some of it's just a different color palette, but there are scenarios like, let me go ahead and see if I can't go into this menu right here. I believe, I think I'm right. You can actually change the hair colors and the hairstyle. It does cost premium currency though. So it costs 100 premium currency, which honestly isn't steep. And like I said, you can actually just, you know, the hairstyle and the hair color are part of the same thing. So you don't have to pay 1,000 per. It's just one or the other. You can do that for any of your characters. I'm going to go ahead and say that I don't want to keep that. But you can do it for any of your characters. Obviously, if they have a helmet, you're not going to be able to see it. And then there are skins in the game. So if you're able to get some different outfits and stuff like that, they'll appear here and you can buy them from here. So you can actually see that 3,000 of the premium currency will give you this. If you want to make them look cool, you could do it with premium currency. There are a couple different outfits you can see. You can, you know, essentially log on and get to those at some point if you want to grind for the premium currency. I'm guessing that some stuff will eventually kind of pop up here as I'm moving forward. There's a lot of stuff that's still locked because I'm kind of in an early stage. And that talking about all the different ways that you can really grind, there's just so many different resources and so many different ways to get all the kind of different stuff that you need. So for example, you can go in here, you can actually see that there's logins, there's all kinds of rewards and stuff like that just for playing the game. There's a lot of currencies as you can see and just going through a lot of different menus. Let's go ahead and just kind of talk about the overall game in my general opinion. I think it's a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of key aspects to it that a lot of people will enjoy. Obviously, when it comes to like a traditional MMO, it's not really fitting that build to a T because it does have some different things like gacha, and it also has the auto combat. I really do like the overall animations. Like this is just a little bit of an idea of what it looks like, but they actually have full fleshed out stuff. Now, obviously it is in a different language. So if you speak Japanese, that's great. You can read it. I've been skipping it because I'm not able to really read it, but I do like the dialogue here. And I do like the fact that it's like kind of a 2D, 3D model that's just sitting here that is all voice acted from what I've been able to see. And we're actually going to go into this raid, which is what I was kind of hoping to be able to do. So let's go ahead and jump into this raid and see what's going on. And also the cutscenes like this, sometimes you can't skip them. Most of the time you can, but if they really want you to look at them, you have to end up watching them, which is fine. I don't have a problem with it because they're actually really well done. Like just getting an idea what they kind of look like. Again, it does remind me a little bit more of Final Fantasy and like the overall premise of that, or like the presence of it, I guess I'll say. But honestly, that's not really in a bad way. I'm not saying it's like a copy and paste type of thing. It definitely has its own feel, but I can see kind of where the resemblance of like those kind of franchises and stuff like that go. But I gotta say, it looks really, really good. Like the cutscenes and stuff like that are phenomenal. So even if you can't understand the story too much, you can kind of get an idea of what's going on with the overall dialogue just from watching the different animations between the different characters and just kind of reading the body language and getting an idea of like, hey, what are we actually grinding for and going for? I've personally not been able to do that I expect that at some point global is probably going to be coming way down in the future. You can actually see that I got 100 premium currency there just for playing. So this is kind of a cool thing about the overall dungeon mechanics. I'm still going through some of the tutorial, guys. So sorry about that, but you can actually see that most of your characters here are fighting. Oh, by the way, don't walk whenever you're doing a skill. I keep doing that, but I pretty much cancel myself out. Now the cool thing is you can switch between everybody if you want to, just like anybody else. Now the timer is reduced here in the dungeon. It actually seems like the timer is non-existent, but basically you can switch between your characters. You know, you want to go over here, you can switch to him. It's like 1 second essentially. Now, I've seen a lot of people in Chaotix chat wondering if you can get your characters or walk out of that. So some of the different times that, you know, a main enemy is going to be doing like kind of a sweeping AoE, if you can try to get people out of the way. In my experience, obviously you could change to them and run them over, but the odds of the other character kind of just running over there as well is kind of unfortunate. You can actually have them follow you though. So for example, if I click that, they'll just be on my heels. So I can just kind of have them pull ahead or like pull next to me. But they don't really attack when they're on that. So it's more of like a, hey, come over here real quick, don't get mashed by that, than anything else, because they actually don't attack when they're on follow, which is kind of a weird thing. I'm guessing it's only really just to get them out of the way of some stuff. But that's pretty much the only thing you can really do when it comes to like getting them out of the way and then swapping off. You have health potions. I've never really had to use them yet. So that's just kind of a thing to keep in mind. It is a little bit laggy. There's no VPN needed here. You can play as you please. Now, the thing is, if you play on the Korean server, you do need a VPN, which is something that a lot of people are kind of worried about. Like, oh, am I going to need a VPN? I've not had to use one. And there's a PC and a mobile client. And this is another cool thing. So let's go ahead and see if I can't do this. I'm going to go ahead and swipe on this. Okay, well, sometimes it goes into kind of a... Okay, there we go. We actually did it. So we broke his armor, and you can see that we're going into this kind of like huge mega slash type of thing. Just doing a massive amount of damage. I didn't know if it was going to do it or not. But there's that. And then some of the different animations. So... you can see that I actually did a swipe up ultimate. That looks a little bit cooler when you have a couple of those SSRs. You're going to get a little bit more of that animation, and it's going to look a lot cleaner than what I just did because most of mine are Rs. So unfortunately, they don't have any animations to the Rs. They're just kind of like generic placeholders. Now your attacks do change depending on who you have. A lot of the different people do have a variation of the same attack is what I'll kind of say. So like an R may have like that, for example, and then an SR might have the similar kind of thing, but it does a little bit more damage and has a little bit more ump to it. And it does a little bit more overall. So, I mean, honestly, I think it's a fun game. I wouldn't say that it's like, you know, the best MMO I've ever played or nothing, but it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of different key aspects to it. And I could see how it could be pretty popular if it ever came to global. I think a lot of people would want to jump onto it, even with the auto thing. I know a lot of people may be kind of on the fence again about that for the fact that, you know, a lot of people like to put time into it. They don't want other people just to be, you know, AFK grinding, because essentially what you could do if you really wanted to is just go to a little bit lower of a level area, maybe enough to give you an XP. And you could just have your guy on auto. The respawn rates are pretty good, meaning that a lot of stuff like the mobs and whatnot will actually spawn pretty quickly. So you can kind of just get yourself to go in there for maybe like an hour or two as you're doing something else, maybe taking a shower or something. And then all of a sudden you come back and your XP is pretty high. Maybe you're like instead of 22, you're actually like 25 account level or whatever. So I can definitely see why that would be kind of an issue. Also, you can auto like the boss. I could just sit here and do this if I needed to go to the bathroom real quick. Now, I wouldn't really recommend that in some of these other stages, especially right now, because I'm kind of like right on the same cuff of the power levels of some of the different dungeons. But as you get a little bit higher or whatever, if you're going through a dungeon, you can definitely just AFK if you wanted to. There are other players in the universe, so as you're running around, you can see other units, you can see other players. From what I've seen about the dungeons, I haven't ran into a dungeon where there's multiple players in it, but I would imagine that that's the case as well. I'd hope to kind of see that as we progress, obviously. This is just kind of a first impressions. I just seen his booty. I've seen an ogre's booty as he's jumping away. But overall, that's pretty much all it is kind of grinding through some of the different MMO aspects of it, doing some stage quests and kind of going through the main story. There's not really a stamina system. It's kind of weird. You can only do so many different things a couple of times per day. I'm gonna go ahead and skip this and kind of demonstrate that real quick. So essentially there's like this, and you can go through here. You can actually see that you have like 3 times a day. And basically these give like different rewards. This is actually a poll for the gacha. And so that's kind of the way that they limit you is by, well, first off, you have to go through some of the different chapters. And then other than that, it's more or less like having so many tries to do certain things. Most of the stuff when it comes to like the stamina motor, I guess what you kind of call it, is tied to the actual gacha or kind of going through some of the different currencies for it. You can also get quite a bit of currency though, just going through the main story and whatnot. So, but like I said, it's pretty much a really fun game. If you just want to jump onto it, you like the overall aesthetic of it, I think that it's a lot of fun. I think it's really beautiful as well. I think the overall like aesthetic and kind of the world building is really cool as well. I think there's a lot of cool aspects to it. I think it's really well polished. Now, obviously, as JP, you're going to have a language barrier, and you're probably going to have a little bit of issues with ping, especially if you're kind of zipping around. But that's basically going to be it for me. Anyway, guys, I will see you in the next one. Have a good rest of your night, guys. Peace.